Hey everyone, how's it going? Today is Friday, June 12th, 2020, and I wanted to make this video just to go over a topic that has been discussed recently in the social media sphere and amongst people, just casually, and that is, as a lot of businesses and other entities are starting to open up and kind of ease restrictions in the United States and in my instance, Southern California, a debate has kind of started regarding the timing of the reopening and the easing of some of these restrictions. And I wanted to make this video because it is a good debate and there's merits to both sides. And while I'm going to play devil's advocate, I am ultimately going to fall on one side of the fence. And as noted by the title of the video, I'm going to be discussing the planned reopening of the Disneyland Resort. So Disneyland theme park, California Adventure theme park, the downtown Disney district, and the Disney hotels. Now, I think the resort has been closed since early March. I think mid-March, around March 13th, 14th is the last day that they were open. And they were, I believe they were one of the first big theme parks to close due to the coronavirus situation. And at the time, I remember it was really the first big indicator for me that, this quarantine lockdown situation was really a real thing, and that it was extremely serious. And I remember walking throughout my office before the lockdown, and we were talking about the coronavirus situation. At that point, it hadn't hit its crescendo yet. And I remember talking to some coworkers, and they were asking me my opinions, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be too concerned about it until like Disneyland closes, right? Disneyland's never closed. So if they close, then we know it's real and serious. So sure enough, it was a couple weeks after that they closed, and they've been closed ever since. And we knew it was going to be a matter of time before they announced their plan to reopen, because when you understand the kind of operation that Disneyland is and the company that Disney is and how big a part of their business are their theme parks, and this is part of one of my points, it's unrealistic of us to expect that they would be closed for an extended period of time. It's just it's not feasible. And so I knew they were going to try and open as fast as they could, taking into consideration the safety of their employees, the guests, and the community, obviously. And in their minds, they think it's time. And so I just wanted to go over some of the facts of the matter and some of my opinions and bring up some of the counterpoints that ultimately is leading to my decision or my feeling that I am comfortable going to Disneyland the day it opens. And so let's just go into some of the details of it. So there's two big disclaimers, and they're kind of tied into each other because they have to do with the same thing. So disclaimer number one is that the plans that they have outlined, which are July 9th, Downtown Disney opens, July 17th, Disneyland and Disney California Adventure opens, and then July 23rd, the Grand Californian Hotel and their Disney Paradise Hotel are going to start their phased opens. So two big disclaimers. First one, this is a proposal. This is their proposal. This has not been confirmed yet. This is their proposed opening plan that has to be approved, I think, by either the county or the state government or both. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's both. So the state has to approve it, and then the county has to approve it. I mean, the smart money says they are confident that it will get approved. It would be very foolish of them to make this announcement if they weren't extremely confident that they were going to be able to meet these dates and meet the requirements and get things rolling on this schedule that they put out there. Second big disclaimer, we're in the second week of June right now. It's June 12th, and we're talking about the park opening July 17th, so a full month from now, over a month from now. My opinion could change. We still have over a month until this proposed first day of reopening. And I can only give my opinion on how I feel now, because things could be a lot different in a month. My opinion now is that I am comfortable going to Disneyland, given the plan that they've put out there, and the state of my situation and how I perceive the rest of the situation. So, but I'm acknowledging that come July 17th or come July or mid-July, things could be a lot different, for better or for worse, right? Things could be a lot better. Cases could start to dramatically drop even further. We've seen a bit of a spike in cases in California and in other parts of the country the last couple days. But I think some of that has to do with increased testing. A lot of that has to do with some of the eased restrictions. People knew that once we ease some of these restrictions up, the cases were going to rise. So while it's something to keep an eye on, you can't really be surprised, right? States like Texas and Florida, California, these states with a lot of people, they've gradually been more lenient on some of the restrictions, opening things up again, and there's a rise in cases. It's to be expected, something to keep an eye on. So things could be better in a month. Things could also be worse in a month from now, and I'm definitely not stubborn enough to not consider changing my opinion if that happens. I follow the data. I follow the science, and that really shapes my opinion. And so those are the disclaimers. So this is pending, it has to be approved. And second, in a month from now, things could be a lot different, for better or for worse. That would make me want to change my opinion. It's possible. So with that, I want to just run down a few of the things that they're planning on doing to create a better experience, a more safe experience. And one of the things that makes me feel good about going, and one thing I think I want to convey and make sure everyone understands, is that this is going to be a phased reopening. Phased. Essentially, that means the first day it opens on July 17th, assuming everything goes as planned. It's not going to be the Disneyland experience you or I or anyone else is familiar with. It's going to be a lot different. I've heard things. I don't think this has been exactly confirmed. There's been some conflicting reports, but I think we can all pretty much assume it's going to be very similar to the guidelines set in place in other theme parks that are open right now. Universal Studios in Orlando is open right now, so it's going to be a lot of stuff like you have to wear a mask, obviously. They're going to be promoting social distancing, right? I think something along the lines of they're only encouraging you to stay with your immediate group and to stay 6 feet away from other groups. That makes sense. Increased sanitation, obviously. More hand sanitizer. They're going to be wiping down the rides even more. Stuff like that. That's a no-brainer. What else? Could be subject to things like temperature checks. Personally, I have no problem with getting my temperature taken before entering the park, or entering the parking garage, or entering downtown Disney. That's fine with me. I think that's a good thing. There's been conflicting reports recently about asymptomatic carriers and but if you have a fever, if you're over 101 degrees Fahrenheit, you probably shouldn't be let in. And if they implement that rule and restriction, that would make me feel a lot better, and I think they will. So it's relatively easy to do. Disney already has a very, I don't know if I'd call it thorough, but they have a security screening before you can get into downtown Disney. And I think a temperature check added right there wouldn't be too much additional effort, but we'll see. Other things, they're not going to be, like I said, it's not going to be the traditional Disney experience. There's going to be a lot of things missing. They said, for sure, no parades and no meet and greets. So no parades, no large gatherings down Main Street or in front of New Orleans Square. So that's good. I could care less about the parades. I never sat and watched them every time I've gone the last number of years. I'm just not a parade person. It's not the reason I go. So personally, that doesn't do anything for me. Meet and greets, same thing. Don't really care about going and taking my picture with Pluto or Cinderella or Jafar or Buzz Lightyear or whoever. There's a large demographic that does care about that, and it's going to suck that instead of waiting in those lines, they're going to be waiting in lines for like Space Mountain with me, but that's okay. I understand that. And then they also said certain attractions could be closed or limited. And, you know, speculation is rampant about what those rides could be. To me, some of the ones I initially thought of were like Indiana Jones. You know, the queue or the line that you wait in to get into that ride can get pretty close quarters, especially as you get closer down into the ride zone or ride loading area. Other rides like Space Mountain, it gets pretty tight. Rides like Star Tours, it gets pretty tight. All the enclosed ones, Haunted Mansion. Haunted Mansion's a big one. You know, there's part of the opening queue is you get into the elevator and you have to go down. And what do they tell you? If you've been on the ride a lot, you know, as you get herded into that area, everyone's like, you know, move in, get closer. Can you do that now? I don't know. How many people are you going to let in that room at a time? 5? 10, maybe? I don't know. So it makes you think, right? But fine, that's fine. I'm willing to be accommodating for all that. I don't care. I really don't care. Another thing they've said is they cannot guarantee that you will not be exposed to COVID-19 while you're in the park. Obviously, you know, they're not going to make you sign anything, I don't think, but there is that disclaimer right on the website, and I'm sure it'll be posted around the park when you get there. They cannot be held liable. There's an inherent risk when you go out in public anywhere right now that you could be exposed and you could contract COVID-19. And, you know, to me, I understand that. I think most people would understand that. If you're going out in public anywhere where there's other people around that you don't know, there is a risk. And that's the big issue, right? You have to weigh the risk to the potential reward, just like we do with everything else. Right now, there's a risk of getting COVID-19 or the coronavirus if you go to Disneyland. Yes. Is that risk heightened? Do you have a higher risk of getting that going to Disneyland than going to the grocery store, going to get gas, or going to a friend's house, or going to Starbucks, right? Or going to the gym, or going to the movies, or going to a bar, right? It's all about weighing that. Like going through a Starbucks drive-thru to get a coffee, you can minimize the risk to a very large extent. In my opinion, you can. You can whittle the risk down to near zero, in my opinion. Going to Disneyland, there's a lot more factors. There's a lot more variables at play. There's a lot of wild cards, right? Because going through Starbucks, the actors in that situation, maybe 1 or 2 people, right? Disneyland, you're talking thousands. So I understand. The risk is greater. It definitely is. I can only speak for me and my situation and how I feel about everything. But personally, while I have hesitation, and I definitely understand some of the arguments against why maybe they are opening too soon, I feel comfortable going. And to me, if the state and local governments are saying, yes, we approve your plan for opening, we think you can put enough measures in place to keep people safe and to minimize risk as much as you can, yes, you may open, then to me, I feel comfortable going. That I may be naive in that, I understand that, but my own personal situation, my own opinion, to me, I feel comfortable. And that's really all that matters, right? For me. You know, the people that are around me and that interact with me and that I see on a frequent basis, they're adults. They can make their own decisions, and you know, I take their opinions seriously and I take them into consideration. And if they didn't feel comfortable or they don't feel comfortable with me doing that, I'm always going to extend the invitation. But if they don't want to, they don't feel comfortable, then I'm not going to pressure them into it, because like I said, I understand the arguments against, and I understand that there are good reasons why I shouldn't probably go. So, and you know, the people who I interact with and know and love, they can tell me how they feel. I guess if I had to play devil's advocate and explain the trepidation I have and some of the factors that played into me considering not going opening day, opening week, or whatever, it's really the variables that I can't control. Like I said earlier, You go to Starbucks, you drive through, it's you and the barista who hands you your drink. It's a very controlled interaction, very minimal touching possibilities, right? I think it's very easy to minimize the risk down to zero in that sort of interaction. Going to Disneyland is quite the endeavor, and it's even with the proposed guidelines in place, the risk of interaction or exposure is still there. And it's more about, I know I can follow the guidelines in place, keeping the mask on, maintaining the social distancing protocol, just being smart about it. You know, if you had a sneeze, maybe step away and sneeze into your mask or your arm, sanitize regularly, wash your hands regularly. I know I can do that. And I plan on doing that as best I can. And if obviously being smart about it as well. If July 17th rolls around and July 16th, I have a bit of a cough or a fever or a sore throat or I'm not feeling well, I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna change my plans. It's not the end of the world, right? But all other things being equal, if I feel well, and I'm not exhibiting any symptoms and I haven't been exposed to the best of my knowledge, then I'm going to go. So, but like I said, the only thing that worries me is the other people around, because like I said, I know I can follow the protocol. I don't know about other people. I can't control other people, right? And it's going to be contingent upon, I guess, the cast members and Disneyland themselves to enforce it as best they can. But, you know, you can't hold everyone's hand all day. There's going to be people taking off their masks when probably they shouldn't. There's going to be people probably getting a little too close, and that's going to happen. I can guarantee it's going to happen. And so, yes, that does play into the decision making, but ultimately, it does not affect me enough to change my mind. So I can't keep stressing enough. It's a month away. It's over a month away. Things could change. Things could change for the better and make me feel even stronger about my decision, and things could change for the worse and make me reconsider altogether. Ultimately, I guess what it comes down to is I like the idea of being able to make the decision for myself. And, you know, I guess that you could make that same argument for a lot of things. You know, bars are opening, gyms are opening, and they're basically saying, hey, now it's up to you now. You got to take the risk into consideration. You got to weigh all the factors, but now it's really up to you. And no one's forcing you to go anywhere, and no one's forcing you to break quarantine and do anything you don't want to do. They're just saying, hey, now you have that option. And, you know, if Disneyland opens and nobody goes, and it's a big disaster and a mess, and they're losing money, and the clear public perception is that people don't feel comfortable going back, they will change and they will alter course, and they'll probably be fine in the end. I guess it comes down to the question of risk. Is the risk there? Yes. There's risk with everything we do. And we have to weigh that risk against potential reward and all the other factors. And for me, I've seen enough in understanding that this isn't going to be a traditional Disneyland experience. It's going to be very controlled if they can abide by these guidelines that they're putting in. And again, things could change. They could update them to be more strict. They could cancel them altogether and cancel everything altogether by then. But with what I've read and what I know about the situation, to me, it's acceptable. And I've seen a lot of people agree with me. I've seen a lot of people disagree with me. And I understand both sides clearly. Clearly, I'm a bit conflicted, but and who knows? Maybe I go the first time and I have a terrible time. It's not really a fun experience, and things are radically different and too controlled and censored. And it won't be worth it to go back until things are normal, as far as Disneyland goes. That's entirely possible. But I want to see what it's like. I want to go back, and that's it. I guess another part of my motivation is I want to get out there, show people what it's like, be there opening day, document it, and let people know how I feel they're doing. Is it safe? Do I feel safe? What's the experience like? Is it still enjoyable with all this safety, this additional safety in place? I mean, it's possible it isn't. It could damper the experience so much it's not worth it to go back and have that risk be presented to you. So that's another part of the motivation, and I I just want to go back. I mean, let's just be honest. I want to go back for selfish reasons and because I like going. It's a fun experience and I miss it. I used to go a lot. I've been a season pass holder or annual pass holder for a long time, and it's just one of my favorite things to do. And if they're telling me I can go back and that it's safe to do so, there's a little bit of risk. That's my perception. To me, it's worth going and trying and seeing what is up. So that's it. I'm open and willing to have a conversation and have my mind changed. I'm willing to have my mind changed. I haven't had it changed yet. I haven't been presented with an argument against that it is making me change my mind, but I'm open to that possibility. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's get a conversation going. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it some more. Get some more facts out there, some more opinions. That's never a bad thing to get a dialogue and a conversation going. So thank you for indulging me, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks.